Hi everyone and welcome to Fully Booked Fest 2020. In celebration of National Reading Month, we are holding a series of fun events and sales for bookworms of all kinds for the month of November. Tonight, we will learn the basics of tarot reading with Fully Booked's own First Look Club member, Reina Regina. Reina Regina is a professional tarot reader, author, and Instagram creator. With a background in nursing and writing, she uses the healing magic of words to empower you to change your story and write your own endings. She tells tiny stories about tarot and living a magical life every day on Instagram at Reina X Regina. Let's all welcome Reina.
So, hello and welcome to How to Start Your Tarot Journey. Today, Fully Booked and I hope to introduce you to the magical, empowering world of tarot. Through this talk, I plan to teach you about what is a tarot, what makes up a tarot deck, what tarot should be used for, and how to choose your first tarot deck and guidebook to get you started on your tarot journey. So if you're ready, let's dive right in. So let me start by telling you about myself. I am a self-taught tarot reader. I learned tarot from books and websites way back in 2017. In Christmas of 2018, I began to offer paid New Year readings. And in 2019, I took my job to the next level and offered a whole menu of other tarot readings. So today, I am an Instagram creator with a very engaged and active tarot and bookish community. And you can follow me at Reina X Regina on Instagram. So, yeah. A common question that I get on Instagram is where to learn tarot or how to start studying tarot by yourself. So my answer is always that you don't need to take any classes to be a tarot reader. It's cool to learn how to read tarot from books, many of which you can actually get from Fully Booked. And so Fully Booked and I decided to come together this Fully Booked Fest 2020 to give you guys a short primer on how to start your tarot journey. So if you're ready, get on your broomstick and... So, what is tarot? The tarot is a deck of 78 unique cards, each depicting a specific scene. According to Baccara Wintner, the author of WTF is Tarot, it is believed that the whole spectrum of potential human experience is captured within these cards. What that means is that the tarot is a mirror to the human experience, which is why it's likely that when you pull a card, any card, its message will resonate with you somehow, because it's likely that you've already been through an event or an experience that the scene in the card is depicting. So the use of tarot is simple. When you ask a question about your current issue, you pull a card. And then we said each tarot card has a story. So it's likely that the story of the card that you draw will mirror your current experience. Then we can look closely at the story of the card and its symbolism and its narrative, and the moral lesson of the story will have advice for you in your current situation. So we'll learn more about this when we see the cards in action later. So first thing, what goes in a tarot deck? So the 78 cards in each tarot deck is divided into two parts, the major arcana and the minor arcana. The word arcana means secrets or mysteries. And the 78 cards of the tarot are regarded as the keys to these mysteries, specifically the mysteries of the human experience. So let's start with the major arcana. The major arcana is made up of cards and numerals. See that here? From 0 to 21. When we see a major arcana card in a reading, it means we are talking about huge phases or themes in your life, the kind that takes years and years to resolve. So, for example, the 4 years that you spend in college, or getting married, or a significant relationship like a parent or a best friend or a life partner. In contrast to that is the minor arcana. So the minor arcana are the cards that have the numbers excuse me, and the suits. So in this example, we have the Seven of Wands, the Three of Swords, Four of Cups, and the Eight of Pentacles. So when we see these cards, it means that we are talking about smaller events that may resolve in weeks or months. So in contrast to the examples of the major arcana, the minor arcana can mean events that occur in a single semester or school year, or a passing relationship, or friends and acquaintances that you're not really close with. So the minor arcana is divided into 4 suits, as shown. When we get a suit in a reading, it usually points to what energy is ruling or motivating you in your current situation. For example, readings with Wands cards may mean that you are focused on your passions and your ambition. With Swords cards may mean conflicts with regard to intellectual matters. Readings would tend to be romantic or creative. And readings with Pentacles cards are usually about money and security in the physical world. Finally, we have the Court cards, those with the titles Page, Knight, Queen, and King. So these represent people that you may encounter or facets of your personality that you are embodying or being invited to embody. So, for example, if we draw the Knight of Wands, excuse me, Wands represent that Wands signify that your ruling energy is passion, charisma, sexuality, and Knights represent movement. So drawing the Knight of Wands is a sign that you or someone around you is very busy sowing their wild oats and is being motivated by their passion and their sexual drive. There we go. So now that you have an idea of how the cards work and what each type of card is used for, it's time to put it all together. So it's like in The Sound of Music when Maria teaches the children the 7 notes in Do, Re, Mi, and then she says, these are only the tools you use to build a song, and you can sing a million different tunes by mixing them up. So in tarot, we put our cards together in formations that we call spreads. So a tarot spread takes a big, overwhelming situation and breaks it down into smaller, bite-sized aspects. It's kind of like when you do a book review. It's hard to explain everything that happened in just one summary. But if you pick apart the book and explain, like, these are the characters, this is the environment, this is the plot, and this is the ending, it's easier to understand and digest the whole message of the book when you pick it apart that way. So, using a tarot spread is kind of like using a story builder. Each position on the spread is an aspect of the story. So, for example, past, present, future, or protagonist A, protagonist B, and then the conflict between them. And then with each individual card you draw, you will set a specific scene. And then you fit those tiny scenes into the positions that you decided on. And then the whole spread will eventually form itself into a bigger story. So it's easier when you see it in action. So let's look at a few examples of that. Here I've picked out 3 sample cards, which will be the building blocks of our story. So we have the Tower, which is a card about massive upheaval and drastic change. And then the Ace of Pentacles, which is the beginning of a financial endeavor or investment. And lastly, the Queen of Wands, a person who is charismatic and ambitious. So we're going to use these small stories of these individual cards to tell a bigger story depending on the spread that we will choose. So let's look at this one. Our first example is the past, present, future spread. So if we fit the tiny stories into the spread, you can say that your past is represented by the Tower, which is a card about upheaval. This tells us that in your recent past, you may have dealt with some massive changes in your life, and you may be feeling some resulting trauma from this, or you may be wanting to change some of your past habits as a result of what you learned from the fallout of the change. And then right now, your present is represented by the Ace of Pentacles, which tells us that you are currently making career and money investments. So maybe the events of the Tower left you broke, so now you're resolved to be wiser with your money, and you want to safely invest it so when another disaster comes, you're financially ready. And then these two things together mean that in your future, you will be more likely to be ambitious, so you can achieve more and earn more and sustain your investment in the Ace of Pentacles and grow from your struggle and your losses from your past in the Tower. So how's that for a story? So yeah, let's look at a second example just to drive the point home. So this is part of my What's Between Us relationship spread, which is about the relationship between two different people. So here, you are represented by the Tower, which tells us that perhaps you came from a period of change or upheaval in your life. Meanwhile, your partner or the other person is embodying Queen of Wands energy. So they're a passionate go-getter with lots of drive and ambition. And the issue that's between you is the Ace of Pentacles. This means right now that you're being asked to invest in something new, which may be a bit slow going, as is the nature of the Pentacles suit. And what this means for you is that you and the other person want to invest in your future together, which is a good sign. But there may be conflicts that will arise because you are currently very cautious after your brush with the Tower. And the other person, as the Queen of Wands, is, in contrast, very enthusiastic. So you're not on the same page here. So the challenge you're invited to overcome is to meet in the middle. They have to slow down and you have to step up. So you can take care of your investment and be patient with each other and be patient while your investment itself takes a while to bear fruit. So there. So tarot doesn't have to be super specific. It doesn't have to tell you whether to invest in real estate or insurance, or if your partner is dark-haired or blue-eyed or tall or short or whatever. The cards only need to paint the broad strokes of a story, enough to give yourself advice that you can act on in order to make what you want happen. So now, since we're on that topic, it's your expectations about what kind of answers your tarot cards can actually give you. So let's look at what the tarot does and doesn't do. Let's start with the things that it doesn't. Number one, tarot is not predicting the future. Tarot is not about asking whether you will marry a tall, dark, and handsome guy, or if your ex will come back, or if you'll be famous someday, or what numbers to pick in the lotto, or what country you should move to. No. So these questions, they don't leave you much room for choice or advice, and they're not what tarot is about. So yes, there are some psychics, like real deal, see your future psychics, but who use tarot. But not everyone who does tarot is psychic. Most of the time, readers only use tarot to understand their own choices, but not to predict the future. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Let's move on to number 2 first. Tarot is not communicating with the devil. So it's true that some people call on deities or gods or other beings for guidance when they read tarot. Personally, I speak to the God that I've always prayed to since I was a child. But whether you call on a good being or a bad being or nobody at all is up to you. The point is that unless you intend to speak with evil spirits are not invited to your tarot reading and your conversation with yourself. Good? Got that? Okay. Next, tarot is not therapy. So it is not part of medical or nursing practice. Although it is a great tool to help you sort out complex emotions, but if you are depressed or anxious or experiencing body pain or in any way might be struggling from a clinical health issue, tarot will not be your first priority in those situations. So if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, tarot is over here at the top of the pyramid where it talks about self-actualization. But proper medical attention is here at the bottom where we are looking at basic needs. If you are ailing in body and your brain counts as part of your body, you need to seek life-saving medical attention first before you can focus on the deeper soul work that is required by working with the tarot. So please, if you are worried that you are ill, I don't need to pull a card to tell you that the best thing you can do for yourself is to first see the appropriate medical professional. So now that we've looked at what tarot is not, let's look at what tarot is. Number one, tarot is observing patterns within yourself. So the predictive reputation of the tarot comes from the fact that the more that you analyze how past events have shaped your present choices, the more you can anticipate possible future outcomes. But you have to remember that even if you have an outcome card in a spread, that is not set in stone. So when you get a reading, you get insight on your thought processes and your decision-making patterns. And here is hopefully where you will realize whether these decisions are serving you or not. So if you like the outcome that you get in your reading, you have to keep making choices along this path to make that happen. And if you don't like the outcome, this is now the point where you have to start actively making different choices to avoid the outcome you don't like or to prepare for it. That is how tarot empowers you to take charge of your future. Yeah? We good? Okay. Next, tarot is spiritual, but not religious. So like I said before, plenty of other people actually don't call on any gods or whoever when they read tarot. Many times, they just open themselves up to humble and brave introspection. So tarot is first and foremost a conversation with yourself. It's about diving into your inner thoughts and your feelings and being honest with yourself about what you need to work on or where you're lying to yourself or what you're hiding from other people. And many, many times you can do this work and you can have honest and effective readings without calling or praying to any god or being at all. So it's all about being spiritual and connecting with yourself rather than following or not following any sort of organized religion. Lastly, tarot is self-reflection. So given that tarot helps a person introspect and heal and be honest with themselves, it can actually be used as an adjunct to therapy, but not as a replacement. So tarot can help you get into the root causes of your traumas and your other issues by breaking an overwhelming situation into bite-sized pieces that are easier to process and understand. But you do need the guidance and the prescriptions from a medical health professional if you're dealing with mental health issues. It can't just be tarot. So, okay. So, are you still with me? We're about halfway through the talk. So now that you have an idea about how to use the tarot and we've sorted out what it can and cannot be used for, let's address some of the common misconceptions when it comes to acquiring your first tarot deck. So first myth, I have to be gifted my first deck. So in tarot, as in life, if we are going to wait for anyone to give us things, we're going to be waiting a very long time. The idea that you have to wait for someone to give you a tarot deck has roots in ancient practice. So in the older times, older tarot readers had to initiate newbies for two reasons. The first is that painted or printed tarot decks at the time were rare and expensive. As in, you had to wait for someone to pass away or be done with their deck before you can get one. You couldn't just buy one at the store. So, second, tarot reading had to be kept secret and low-key because something that was more popular back then was burning witches. So you couldn't just go to the store and buy a deck, and you couldn't just lay out the deck at the dinner table because they'll capture you and say you're a witch and burn you at the stake. So everything had to be very secret, and elders had to be careful who they trusted with the fact that they were magical practitioners. So luckily in 2020, this is not true anymore. You can go to your favorite neighborhood bookstore and buy any deck you want. And you can freely practice tarot reading without being afraid of being burned at the stake. So it is now 100% okay to buy your own tarot deck, and you don't have to wait for anyone to initiate you into a magical life that you are already born into. Okay, next. Lalabas daw yung magic sa box. So this is an actual thing that I heard from a friend who works at Fully Booked. She asked me if it was okay to use the cards they stock in the store for promo photos. Because apparently some guy had told her, "Ma'am, bawal pong buksan yung mga box ng tarot cards kasi lalabas po yung magic." What? So that's really cute. But like sometimes if you want to buy a deck, you want to see what it looks like inside before you spend money on it because they can be quite expensive. So barring store policy where it's allowed or not allowed to open things, you don't need to worry about magic escaping the box. There is no magic in the box. The box is not magic. The cards are not magic. The cards are just pretty pieces of paper. They could be playing cards or bookmarks in the hands of someone who doesn't know what they are. What makes these cards magic is the person reading them with magical intentions, and that's you. So without you actually intending to do magic with your tarot cards, there is no magic in the box. So, yeah. The last myth is that no one else should touch my tarot cards. This comes from the belief that tarot cards store the energy of people who touch them, which is true-ish. And also that a deck is no longer, quote-unquote, someone other than the owner holds it, which is not so true-ish. So the fact is that there are many ways to clear a deck of energies between uses. So you can use crystals, holy water, sunlight, moonlight, music, chanting, Reiki, visualization. So many ways to remove energies from a deck after someone else's touches it. But like I said, cards are just paper. There is no pure or impure thing going on here, especially when you've figured out what kind of cleansing method works for you and your decks. So still though, it is a good idea to ask first before you touch a deck that doesn't belong to you, because that's just good manners and common courtesy. And yeah, you don't know what it was last used for, so it's better to ask before touching or handling a deck that belongs to somebody else. All right, so now that we have set all the necessary expectations and corrected the misconceptions surrounding tarot, perhaps you're feeling more at ease about getting your first deck. and starting on your tarot journey. So on Instagram, it looks like tarot readers and witches and other magic folk use so much stuff in their practice, but that's really up to you. Some of us just really like to hoard pretty things, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You don't need very much to start reading tarot, just your deck and maybe a book that you can consult if you're in a pickle, but everything else really is just additional, like wands and crystals and altar cloths, etc. They only help you establish a sacred space or stabilize your energy, but they're not really essential to the practice of reading tarot. So when you embark on this journey, I hope that you will be wise with your money and choose only what works for you. The rest you can really, really do without. Now let's go to how to choose your first tarot deck. Personally, I recommend starting with the traditional Rider-Waite Smith deck or something similar, because it shows the traditional images and symbolism of each card that makes the tarot what it has been through the centuries. So for example, if you see here, we have the traditional image of the Two of Pentacles. The Two of Pentacles is a card about balancing priorities, typically those that have to do with money. So we can see a man who is juggling two coins, which tells us that he's trying to balance his financial priorities. Then we have the infinity symbol, which means that this process is perpetual and ongoing. And the idea is to not pin things down, but to flow and be flexible as your circumstances change. Lastly, we can see two ships in the distance, one sailing high and one sailing low, signifying that your fortunes will always be changing and they will not necessarily be in your control, but they will be manageable so long as you pay attention and focus on your priorities. So that's a lot of insight that we're getting from this card, just based on looking at the picture. And then on the right, we can see two cards from two decks that are not based on the Rider-Waite images. So this one is the Two of Pentacles from the Practical Magic Starter deck. And this one is the Two of Pentacles from the Antique Anatomy Tarot deck. All the symbolism that we just discussed from the Rider-Waite deck is lost in these two decks. So if you're new and you have no idea what the Two of Pentacles is, it can be challenging for you to understand or intuit what this card is about, because you don't know the basic images. So it's important that you learn the complete fundamental meanings of the tarot before you start to experiment. But still, really, it's up to you. Because if you can really afford to just buy one deck for the rest of your life, it might as well be a deck that really sparks joy in you and really makes you happy to use it. I will also say that you can learn the images from a book or from the internet. So if a deck is calling to you and it's not necessarily the Rider-Waite, then go ahead. What is more important is that you not buy fake decks or bootleg decks. You can get a lot of cheap printed pirated decks on Shopee and Lazada nowadays, but I urge you to please, please, please do not give your money to those sellers, because they are technically thieves who are actively stealing from independent tarot creators, many of whom are struggling to make a living by selling their art. So please don't. It's bad juju. Instead, you can buy original decks at Fully Booked that are great for beginners and advanced readers alike. So in the next few slides, I'm going to show you some of my favorites. So first off is the Rider-Waite Smith Tarot. This is the OG. Again, it's a great deck for beginners because the fundamental images and symbolism is preserved in this deck. And for me, I believe that if these images have been effective for so long, there is a reason. And before beginners can play around with the nuances of each card, I believe that they need to have a strong foundation in the fundamentals of tarot. And that starts with knowing the Rider-Waite-Smith pictures. So, yeah. Next, we have the Lightseer's Tarot. I love this because it's filled with vibrant and dynamic art, full of people in the middle of actions, and it almost entirely features people of color. So you can see, let's see, we have a brown girl and a brown guy. And I love that Filipinos might be able to see themselves in the brown skin tones of the people depicted in this deck, which is, so it brings us closer to tarot rather than if we don't see ourselves represented in the deck at all. Then we have the Fountain Tarot, which is the complete opposite. It is based on the Rider-Waite images, but it features minimalist pastel paintings rather than vibrant, lively colors. It is a very zen, calming deck with easy to understand images, and it's also great for beginners because the pictures do reflect best symbolism. Next, we have the Mystical Manga Tarot, which is basically just a Rider-Waite-Smith deck for manga and anime lovers, and tarot. Simply because I believe every tarot reader should have a dog-themed tarot deck. So, we're almost to the end. So now you have a deck, but how do you actually go about studying your cards? Like I said before, there are paid online tarot classes, certifications even, but it is entirely possible to learn tarot on your own like I did. So here are 3 of my favorite tarot guidebooks that you can get from Fully Booked. My first resource is Tarot Plain and Simple by Anthony Lewis. It was written by a doctor, specifically a psychiatrist. So again, like I said, tarot can be used as an adjunct to mental health treatment. I love this book because you'll find on your journey that a lot of tarot books are very woo-woo and they're very spiritual. But the thing is, if you're not an incredibly spiritual person to begin with, it can be hard to make that shift so early on in your journey. So Tarot Plain and Simple is helpful here because it's very grounded in stuff. So it isn't difficult to force yourself to believe in things that you don't necessarily believe in just to read tarot. If that's not yet where you are right now, you can stick to real life situations and seeing how the cards can apply to them. And the book also uses keywords and nicknames for the cards to make retention of the meanings easier. So I love that. It's my first book and I still go back to it a lot. Next is the Modern Witchcraft Book of Tarot by Sky Alexander. Sky Alexander is a prominent. She has lots and lots of great resources about witchcraft and magic. You'll see a lot of books that look like this, and they will be by her. What I love about this book in particular is that it tells you what each card means when it comes to love, money, and career, which is what people most often ask about in their tarot readings. So it saves you a lot of guesswork when you get a card whose story doesn't immediately make sense for the situation you're asking about. Like, say you drew a Pentacles card, which, like I said, is usually about money, but you're asking a question about love. So it's like, if you're new to this, it can be hard to make the connection. But this book just writes it down and makes it easier for you. So that's why I love this book for beginners. And lastly, my personal favorite tarot book is WTF is Tarot and How Do I Do It by Bakara Whitner. So Bakar Whitner is a big tarot reader and magic shop owner on Instagram. And what I love about her book is that she talks about her experiences with addiction, trauma, and healing, and how the tarot is specifically used as a tool to help us forgive ourselves and come to terms with the emotional scars that we have or that we've been dealt with. So she shares her shadow with us in the pages of this book, so that when we use the tarot to explore our own shadows, we can do so with compassion and without shame, because we can see that someone else has done it before us. I would recommend that you read this book after you already have a grasp of the fundamental meanings of the cards, so you can appreciate the nuances and the lights and shadows of each card more than if you were a complete beginner who doesn't know. Yeah. So that's it for decks and books. Now you know what to look for when you visit your local Fully Booked, so you can start on your tarot journey. So before I send you off, I will leave you with a pro tip. Apparently not everyone knows about the magical place that is the Fully Booked customer service counter. But if a deck or a book is not available at your local branch, Fully Booked can actually have the item transferred from another branch that has it to the one you're in for free. And if they don't currently stock a deck or a book that you want, they may be able to order it for you from other bookstores or suppliers abroad. All you have to do is speak to customer service and tell them the title, and they'll see how they can acquire the book or the deck for you at little to no additional cost. It is the closest that we can get to, I don't know, summoning or manifesting magic. I'm really happy about that. Yeah. So we have reached the end of our talk. That is it. I hope you've learned a lot about the art of tarot reading. I hope I've been able to set your expectations and clear up some misconceptions and give you pointers on how to choose your first tarot deck and guidebook. And we actually have a surprise for you. If you love this talk, you learned a lot, and you want to really kick off your tarot journey with a bang, Fully Booked and I will be hosting an online tarot workshop later in November. We are still hammering out the details, but we'll let you know as soon as we've sorted everything out. In the meantime, you can keep an eye on our socials for updates. That's @_Fully Booked for Fully Booked and @Reina Regina for me. So thank you so much for spending your day with me, and I hope you stick around for more of my words, stories, and magic. So thank you, and merry we meet again, and bye.
Thank you, Reina. And to everyone who joined us today, to start your tarot journey, please do check out our New Age collection on www.fullybookedonline.com, where you can get them and other great reads at 15% off until November 8th. Fully Booked Fest 2020 will be ongoing for the month of November. Follow us on our social media accounts for more great and fun content and reads. We hope to see you soon in our future events and our virtual shelves. Keep safe and keep reading. Thank you.